Women and athletes in particular have been scrutinized about how they look.
She got hit so hard she didn't know what the hell hit her. It's a person that transitioned. He was a good male boxer.
Frankly, to be put in that position must be awful, on top of all of the social media harassment that these athletes have had.
Imane knows herself, but there are questions in her head and she asks, why me?
ناس حتى يقتل تفكير وذهن.
Algerian boxer Imane Khelif has re-sparked the sports world's debate surrounding gender diversity after a dubious genetic test thrust her into the public conversation. While Khelif asserts she is and always has been a woman, the International Boxing Association rocked that certainty in 2023 when it disqualified her from a major tournament after a failed sex characteristic test, alleging chromosomal anomalies. Also implicated was boxer Lin Yu-Ting, who is competing at Paris in the featherweight category. The reputation of the IBA has been fraught, and its inability to share the methods or results of its tests leave its verdict facing skepticism. The International Olympic Committee, which oversees Paris 2024's boxing contest, has disputed it entirely.
We have two boxers who are born as women, who have been raised as a woman, who have a passport as a woman, and who have competed for many years as women. And this is the clear definition of a woman.
Despite this, reporting of Khelif's gender identity varies anywhere from female with an intersex condition to transgender, often with aspects of each falsely conflated.
We actually don't know what her identity is, apart from what she's disclosed as being a woman. We don't know if she has an innate variation of sex characteristics, which is also called an intersex variation or a difference of sex development. We know that there has been reporting, really coming from a discredited boxing association that claims that she has what could be an innate variation of sex characteristics.
Both Lin and Khelif were able to compete in the Tokyo 2020 Games. Khelif is now punching for gold in the welterweight category. She has never been found to have an overabundance of testosterone, and testing for the hormone is known to be an imperfect measure of gender eligibility screening. Even for intersex athletes, it's not a one-size-fits-all category.
It's a spectrum of conditions. I like to think of it as you know, two circles that overlap, a male sort of circle and a female circle, and there's this overlap in it, I think what's called 1.7% of cases.
Intersex conditions are not even the most common cause of abnormal testosterone in women. Hyperandrogenism occurs in 5 to 10% of all women during their peak period of physical ability. Generally, it's temporary and caused most commonly by ovarian cysts. Testosterone testing is argued to unfairly target by ethnicity and can often end up cracking down on the way someone is sexually developed rather than the genetics they were born with. Intersex athletes struggling to accrue support for their eligibility are hampered further by the conflation of intersex conditions with being transgender.
In trans people, where there might be a gender incongruence between their sex assigned at birth and their self-identified sex, it's a different condition altogether and situation altogether than the intersex conditions.
In an Olympic context, it's up to regulators to decide if intersex athletes have an unfair advantage over their competitors. For trans athletes, it's likely to only come into the conversation if they transitioned after male puberty. There is no international or Olympic standards set to determine gender eligibility in women's sports. The IOC has set a gender identity inclusion framework, but sports regulators who determine the eligibility of aspiring Olympians are free to ignore it.
I don't think there's enough evidence or any really in females about advantages of testosterone. It's just, the data is just not there.
World Athletics, the regulator for track and field events, sparked controversy with its stringent gender eligibility testing in 2009 when South African sprinter Caster Semenya was forced to enter hormone therapy to race against other women after she was determined to have an intersex condition. Semenya took World Athletics to courts across Switzerland and the EU on grounds of discrimination, with the European Court of Human Rights eventually determining the regulator had been discriminatory. Despite this, its policies on competition legal testosterone levels remain unchanged. While Imane Khelif's eligibility in the eyes of the IOC seems unshaken, many fear the public debate of her gender identity leaves her at risk when she returns home.
Certainly, coming from a country where to be LGBT is to be criminalized, then this does cause a lot of potential risks and harm for her.
The debate of Olympic gender eligibility mixes an advancing field of science with one of the most contentious public debates. Policies adapt as quickly as Olympic cycles change, leaving future structures and regulation a puzzle.